Hello, dear learners. So, I'm sharing with you this lecture on Anglo Norman period. We have already discussed Anglo Saxon period, and let's begin with Anglo Norman period. Now, Anglo Norman period is also known as the medieval age. Okay, this particular century, 11th century, this is also known as medieval age. And in this particular lecture, we are going to learn that how or why it was known as Anglo Norman period, and how the literature came to be known as the Middle English literature, from where this name came, what were the main happenings that took place. As I've already discussed earlier with you, there will be around three parameters that we'll take into consideration. Whether we, first of all, if I talk about the historical background, obviously, okay, then you have the literary characteristics, right, as I discussed in um, Anglo-Saxon period, right? Then, of course, over here there are some progresses related to language that were done, and of course, we will focus on the major works, right? So, language somehow comes with the history portion itself. Okay, so let's go ahead with Anglo Norman period. Now, this period, for that matter, it is a dividing line which you can work out over here. Middle English literature, what we call. There is what you call before Chaucer, that is 1066 AD to 1340 AD. It is also known as your early Middle English. Then, of course, the age of Chaucer, from wherein the main thing starts with you people as students of first semester. And lastly, the age of revival. So, Middle English covers this particular time. And as I have already told you, this particular period, 15th century, मैंने आपको बताया था, that it is known as the barren age of literature. Here, who were there? The successors of Chaucer were there, and they merely did what? They merely imitated, or they simply copied what Chaucer has written. Okay, that is why this is known as barren age of literature. So, next begins the historical background. Now, this you will have to understand by knowing three different people. Here is William the Conqueror, right? Who was he? He was the king of Normandy, France. Okay, and here is your King of England, who? Harold II. Harold Godwin. Son of Godwin, he became the Earl of Wessex after the death of his father. He was powerful and influential earl, came into power after the death of Edward the Confessor. Now, this man, Edward, is very, very significant. If you delve deep into history, what you will learn that Edward was actually, when England was divided into different parts, Edward was the main king. But King Harold, being more powerful and influential, he, after the death of Edward, he tried to be the head of everything, head of the, let us say, head of England. But Edward had already written in his will that the crown should obviously go to his family only. Okay, the heir must be from their family. Now, what happens? I'll get back. William the Conqueror. No. What William the Conqueror did? He was his cousin. Right? Now to win these two people, William the Conqueror and King Harold II, they fought a battle, and that battle is known as the Battle of Hastings. And obviously, they were the victorious people in this war. Okay, this is the main thing, that how now England was being ruled by the French people. Now, see, this is the Battle of Hastings between William the Conqueror and Harold the Second. मैंने आपको reason भी बता दिया why the Battle of Hastings took place, and this is sometimes also known as the Norman Conquest. ये जो date है ना, this is very very significant. Keep that in mind, right? Now, before I focus on the language of England, to conclude the historical part, I would say that now when these Normans, they took over England, then the French people, they came here, they communicated with the people, and they also came there as settlers, and they married women of that of England, right? Now, with the coming of these Normans or the French people, what happened, that English people or the people of England, they became more civilized. They learned more manners. You know how French people are, so some influence came through that. So this is what you have to remember. Now, coming to the language part. Language, how did Middle English came to be known as? So, what was there earlier, prior to the Anglo-Norman period? Language of Angles, Saxons and Jutes, plus the language of Normans came to be known as the Anglo-Norman language, which is also known as the Middle English language or the Middle English literature, right? Now, here is this dividing line, and what is the divider? This conquest is the divider. 1066 se pehle there were Anglo-Saxons before 1066 AD, and then there were the Anglo-Normans after 1066 AD. So this becomes our dividing line, right? Now, there are certain significant facts which are related to the language during the Norman period, right? What advancements were done, what happened. Otherwise, before I deal with this slide, otherwise also, try to understand as a story that what happened. People after William the Conqueror, who was the king of Normandy, France, now who was having a hold on England? France was having a hold in England. People were coming French people were coming, they were communicating with each other. They also brought literature with them, right? Obviously, I told you they were getting civilized, and many good things were happening. So what happened? First thing, now because there was rule, that obviously the one who was ruling, there will be the official language. So French became the official language of France as France was ruling, right? It was the official language of the court and the church. But the clergymen, they used Latin only. They did not use what? French. इनके ऊपर किनका इन्फ्लुएंस था? रोमन्स का ही इन्फ्लुएंस था. ठीक है? Then Old English literature plus the French came to be known as the Middle English literature. Old English was kind of banned, as लिखा है, typo error. It was a kind of banned to be used during this period. And as the advancements of language took place, many words of French were added to English. There are अगर हम बोले ना origin की बात करें, next line भी पढ़ लेते हैं, then let me explain you. Most of the words of English are having roots in French or Latin. Origin, जो words का maximum English words का जो origin है ना, that is French. अगर हम etymology पढ़ते हैं ना, तो you will find that many words, they have their origin is either Latin or it is French. Etymology is also the origin of a particular word. So these were the advancements that were taking place, and these are certain facts related to the language. Now, the most notable development during the period, what happened? Schools and colleges were set up across England. How did that happen? Or what brought about this particular advancement over here? A significant thing, a notable thing over here is the Crusades. Crusades क्या थे? 1095 में ये start हुए, and these were nothing but these were your religious wars. You can see these people bearing the crosses, right? So these religious wars, they started in the year 1095, and it was between whom? It was between the eastern part of the world and the European countries. Okay, so the war was between these two countries. Now, what Pope said? Pope said that he sent his crusades. जो उनके ये लोग हैं ना, जो लड़ने के लिए भी जाते थे, they were known as crusades. Crusades war भी थे, but people who were sent to do a task, what was that task I am coming to? They were also known as crusades. So these crusades, they were sent to different parts of the world. Especially, they were sent to the eastern part of the world, right? And to do what? To spread Christianity. Pope ने बोला जाके सबको Christian बना दो Eastern countries में. Okay, and what happened? As a result, many Greek and Roman texts that were there, they became available to be read by these European countries, right? And what happened? Earlier, only who was educated? The clergies used to be educated. But with the coming of the Crusades, the people also started getting education. From the church, the education moved ahead. People started learning literature, for that matter, and the language also started growing. And London over here became your what? It became your educational hub. So let us read about crusades. Crusades were the religious wars that were fought between the eastern part of the world and the European countries. Pope asked the crusaders to go and convert the eastern countries into Christianity. In the process, what happened? Greek and Roman texts were read by the European countries, and that was the beginning of what? The spread of learning. Earlier, only the clergies were educated, but now the civilization was getting educated. After the Crusades, education moved ahead and outside the church. Pehle kyun? Why? Because earlier only the clergies were educated. And London became the educational hub as the main centers of education were set up there. The two big institutions were set up during this 11th and the 12th century. So you can see here, this is the Cambridge University, which was set up in 1167 AD. Okay, And this is your Oxford University, which was set up in 1209 AD. So, I hope the historical background and the development of language, as well as the growing up of education, is clear to you. Now we move up to the literary works, some of the major works. Now, I also told you during the Anglo-Saxon period that during that time most of the literature was lost due to oral transmission. But here, that was not the case, and here you have many um, works that were written, but again, sorry, they were anonymous. Some works do not have names. Now, the most important work was Chanson de Geste. French titles आएंगे ना, because French people were ruling England. Now, this means the songs of deed written in the praise of nobles नहीं बोलते हम इसको, nobles and the knights. अब इसमें ना, इस era में जो सबसे important knight थे, when you will read Tennyson आप तब पढ़ोगे उनके बारे में, that was King Arthur. King Arthur के ना 12 knights थे, ठीक है, and they believed that it was said that every night King Arthur used to have a meeting with all his knights, and they were in search of what? They went in the search of what we call the Holy Grail. Holy Grail किसको बोलते हैं? The bowl in which Jesus Christ he had his last supper. Jesus ने जिसमें अपना last supper लिया था, उसको उसकी search में वो लोग निकले थे. Now, another story which relates to these Arthurian legends, जो ये Arthurian legends यहाँ लिखी गई हैं, ये जो songs of deed हैं, it is believed, what is it? Arthurian legends. So many stories are there in the form of poetry. Arthurian legends. What is written? It is believed. ये तो एक तो मैंने बता दिया. They went in search of this, and secondly, one of these knights, out of these 12, one of these knights established an extramarital affair with the wife of King Arthur. And after that, many things changed. And this affair, it too became part of the Arthurian legends. Okay, so this is what Chanson de Geste. It is not about the affair, but it is all about the bravery of, and written in the praise of the bravery of the nobles and the knights, right? Another significant work, The Owl and the Nightingale. We do not know who the writer is. Now these three poems, Carcer Mundi, Cleanliness, Patience, these are the religious poems that were written at that time, and you must see, obviously you will have to read about them in detail. They are having a large number of lines, around 13,000 lines, around 16,000 lines. That is how they have been written. And post these religious wars, there is a Chronicle of Britain which was written by Layman, and the name of the book was Brut. Again, poetry. Many other notable works were related to Alexander the Great, War of Troy, and Charlemagne. Now, what you have to remember, as we studied in the Anglo-Saxon period also, we can still say that most of the works, they can be divided into two heads. You had religious poems, religious as well as heroic poems. And they were lengthy poems that were written in this particular period. Okay, so now for you to remember is the fact that our Middle English literature is divided into these three parts, significant parts. आज हम इस बारे में पढ़ चुके हैं, ठीक है? We have read about the early Middle English, which you can say the Anglo-Norman period. This I have dealt with, right? So these are the three parts into which Middle English can be divided. First part before Chaucer हम पढ़ चुके हैं. Now next topic will be the age of Chaucer that I will deal with. Okay, followed by the 15th century, which is known as the Barren Age of literature. So I'm quite hopeful that this introductory part must be clear to you, and you may not be having much doubts about it, but please understand the fact that there are certain parameters which must be clear to you. कुछ foregroundings हैं, कुछ bases हैं, ये जो मैंने आपको बताए, जो हम पढ़ेंगे हर एज को समझने के लिए, right? And obviously from the 16th century, the work is gonna be divided. So remember these heads, please. I have shared it in the slide of the Anglo Saxon period, so that will be of good help to you. Now please remember the Anglo-Saxon period and the Anglo-Norman period, what happened there, उसकी जो historical background है ना, remember it like a story, otherwise you will forget. And how will you remember? You will have to pen down something. बिना लिखे कभी कुछ याद नहीं होता है. You will not remember it, okay? Because it is not a simple story that you're telling a child, a small child below 10 years of age, or a toddler for that matter. Okay, to remember these certain things, these historical aspects, you have to pen down, you have to make your notes. Only then you will be able to do it. Okay, so next I meet you with age of Chaucer. I will start with that. Thank you for listening patiently, and I hope I am able to convey the major aspects as far as Anglo-Norman period is concerned. Thank you so much. Take good care of yourself.